guys, Luke here with the Outdoor Gear Review, and today for this episode we're going to be addressing all the questions that you guys sent in last week. So basically we will be making this into a series, maybe once a month, maybe more often if there's lots of questions, but basically it's going to be a question and answer sort of video, so you might as well grab some coffee and maybe a cold beer if it's beer time, and we'll get started, guys. Alright guys, I got my Joe here. Maybe you guys do as well. When I made the question video about a week ago, I got a ton of questions. Right here's 4 pages of questions that we'll be answering today. Some questions I'm just not going to answer. Weird stuff like taking my shirt off and all sorts of weird junk, but okay. But besides some of the weirder questions, we really did get some really good ones. Some kind of personal, not too bad. Others about gear and other stuff. But we'll go ahead here and we'll start with the very first question. And it says here, what type of stove do you prefer the most when you're out backpack? If I had to choose a stove that I would use most of the time, it would probably be a canister stove. That's usually a propane butane mix. You guys have seen my Optimus stove many times. Those work really well in most conditions. There are some exceptions, of course. The fuel is more expensive than other, say, liquid-based fuels or wood or whatever. Also, when the temperatures get really cold, you'll have to warm up the canister. It doesn't perform as well. Also, you don't know how much fuel you have left in a canister-based stove. But they're pretty lightweight. They're very efficient. There's no stink to it, really. And they work really fast, and I really do like that about them. Another option that is popular are liquid-based stoves. With them, you have to carry around the fluid. There's always a risk of leaking in your backpack and so on. I have them. They work just fine. They do work better in colder temperatures, but they're heavier, kind of messier. They're not my personal favorite. Also, with liquid-based stoves, you often have to prime them, so there's a longer prep time to actually using the stove. Whereas with a canister stove, usually you can light it up and rock and roll, and that's not the case with liquid stoves. Alright, my next question is, are you married? Do you have kids? What do you do for a living? So, yes, I'm married. I've been married for about 12 years now. I have 2 kids. One's going on 13, and the other's going on 11, which is pretty crazy. Pretty awesome too, actually. You know, it's really cool when they're babies, but it's even cooler when they start to grow up. And I mean, there's definitely a separation between being a parent and being a friend. But I love being able to have real conversations with them, and it's really cool. The older they get, that's for sure. So, what do I do for a living? Well, as you can see here, it definitely involves technology. I've got computers all over the place, as you can tell. I'm a web developer. I also moderate websites. I do some photography and digital art sort of stuff, just to kind of help out with some income. And it's pretty nice, actually. Being my own boss isn't too bad. It's kind of a job that I actually just kind of fell into. I just kind of developed it over the course of a couple of years while I did manual labor, honestly. I used to work at a candy factory that just burnt the living piss out of me, to be honest with you. I mean, I've got scars all over my arms from that job, and that was really tough. But, yeah, pretty nice job, all in all, working on the computer and whatnot. So that's what I do for a living. Somebody asks here, what type of camera do I have, and what program do I use to edit my video? And the camera that I'm shooting with right now is a Panasonic HC V700. So I'll put the name of this camera in the description for you guys, so you guys can maybe search it up, whatever. You know what? The more I use this camera, the more I like it. It does have some quirks and some oddities that I don't really necessarily care about it. And I'll talk about those in a second. For editing my videos and stuff like that, I use my Mac. It has iMovie on it, which is just incredibly simple to use. I mean, it really is just very, very straightforward. There are some other products such as Premiere from Adobe, stuff like that. Works well, really complicated unless you just happen to, do a lot of video training courses and stuff, maybe watch some YouTube videos. But for me, iMovie's the way to go. I think it's 2011 edition. I think that's the last one they brought out with iLife, but it works really, really well. Now, going back to the cameras, my primary camera is this Panasonic, which you guys are looking at me with right now. I do sometimes use a little point-and-shoot camera. This is a Canon PowerShot SD780 IS, and it's not a bad little camera. The video quality is actually really, really good on this camera, but it lacks automatic focusing. So basically, when you turn it on and you're about to record a video and you press down the shutter button, whatever that it focuses on is what that, that distance, that's what it'll stay on. So you can definitely film with it. It's kind of a pain in the butt, though. On rare occasions, I will use my iPhone 4S to record videos. I do have a very, very nice Canon 5D Mark II, and that's what I use for my photography, but I do use it sometimes to record videos with. It takes amazing quality video. That's why those cameras are used for movies and all that good stuff. But again, no manual focus, so trying to focus on yourself from a camera that's standing in front of you is a real pain in the butt. It's not even worth the trouble, honestly. If you guys are planning on doing your own videos, you need to get a camcorder that has good focusing on it, automatic focus, has to have good image stabilization, which is really, really important. And before you go out and buy a camcorder or a camera, whatever you're going to do, make sure that the file types that it records with are compatible with your video editing program. Like with this camcorder right here, it has an issue, and it's funny because for months after having this camera, I thought that I could only record in what they call iframe mode, and basically that's like some mode that's specifically compatible with iMovie, and it's a lower resolution, kind of compressed, it looks kind of crappy, and so, the camera has other modes to it, but I could not get iMovie to actually recognize those modes, and so especially like the highest degree of recording, it's not compatible with this computer. It's just a Mac thing. But after doing some fooling around, I discovered that there's a bizarre little way that you can import those file types that this camera records in HD to the computer. And it's this real roundabout, sort of backwards sort of way. So what you're seeing now is full 1080p recording. And it works pretty good. If you guys have any questions concerning the camera, go ahead and let me know, and I'll address them for you. Okay, our next question is, do you have any experience with the Black Diamond Storm headlamp? The answer is no, I do not. But I do have experience with its cousin, the Revolt, which is almost the same thing. There's just a couple little differences. Overall, I can tell you that if it's a Black Diamond product, 99% of the time it's going to be bomb-proof stuff. The Revolt headlamp a friend of mine owns, and we've used it many, many times on night hikes and stuff like that. Really top-notch, really cool piece of gear. So I would say with the Storm, you can't go wrong. I kind of looked it up a little bit, and they're only going for like 20, 30 bucks. So for a headlamp, that's pretty typical. For something that's Black Diamond quality, go for it. You won't be disappointed. Our next question is, what's your opinion about the Light My Fire plastic spork? You know what? Plastic is plastic, and plastic has a tendency to break. Those Light My Fire sporks are around 12 bucks. I would suggest that you spend less and get the Light My Fire titanium spork, which is a spork, a spoon, and a knife, and it's only like 8 bucks. So there's no real weight difference between the two, and there's a hell of a lot of difference in strength and durability. So if it was me, I don't really care about the colors of the plastic sporks, so I would grab the titanium one. I think you'll be happier with the durability of that later on. Our next question deals with gear, quality, and price. And the question is, would you stay on a budget and replace the loose or damaged items, or would you invest more money in higher quality items that will last longer? Now for myself, I would go with the higher price and the higher quality gear. And of course, that's within reason. Every situation and every piece of gear category will be different overall, so it's not really a one answer fits all situation sort of thing here. A good example of this would be knives. If you buy an expensive knife, do you have the ability to sharpen that knife when the blade becomes dull? If you don't have that ability, then you may not want to invest in an expensive knife. You may want to grab a cheaper knife that's of good quality, a cheaper price, that when it becomes dull, you could chuck it and buy another one. That's just an example of how, every situation's a little bit different. Another example is like tents. For me, I like lightweight. I have a back injury. I'm not a big guy, so paying the extra dollar for something that's lightweight, incredibly durable, there's a whole lot more benefit for me paying the higher price for it than not. So go accordingly. Everybody has a different budget, so yeah, that's just my aspect, my look on it. Okay, now somebody asked me about a North Face backpack, the 70 plus 10 liter. I've tried to look this pack up, and I found it on some weird sites that I've never heard of before. I found it on eBay, and that's about it. I could not find much information about them. Something about this pack and what I have found, my spider senses are going off, and I'm saying Chinese knockoff. I could be wrong, but something seems fishy about it. I think I would skip it myself. There you go. If you have any more questions about that pack, let me know. If you can find some links to maybe to on the North Face website, I'll be happy to look at it again. But like I said, I couldn't find any information about it, so there you go. Someone wants to know, how tall am I? Well, I'm 5'4". I weigh about 135, something like that. Our next question deals with knives again, and I was asked if I was to pick a knife, what would it be? Pretty simple question. Really, that really kind of depends on the type of trip that I'm doing. If it's a day hike, where, I want something lightweight. I'd probably go with a Mora knife of some sort. They're good quality, super sharp, they weigh absolutely nothing, fit in your pack, nice and easy. If I'm doing an overnight sort of trip, I'll go with something that's a little bit more sturdy, something that can do a little bit of wood processing without fear of tearing it up. Maybe like the Becker BK16 is a good example of that. Now, if I was going to go on a longer trip, let's say multi-day, then I would want something that really can process firewood well. So I'd go with maybe the Becker BK2 or the Ontario Gen 2 Plus or whatever it is. Something that's really big, something that's strong, something that can really take a beating, split up wood and whatnot. When I go out backpacking and if I'm going to do an overnight trip, I really don't concern myself a great deal with firewood. I'm not chopping trees down or chopping trees up and busting up wood all that much. I'm very content with just scavenging and finding twigs and medium-sized sticks that I can usually just break with my leg, something like that. Saw or axe? For me personally, when I'm out backpacking and hiking and stuff, camping and whatnot, I tend to go with a saw over an axe. The truth is, the saw is going to be lighter, it's going to be safer. I mean, you're not going to hit yourself in the shin with a saw, you know what I mean? So, for me, there's definitely a time and a place for an axe, but most of the time when I'm out backpacking and stuff like that, I don't need one. To me, it's a little bit overkill. I can do what I need to do with a saw and a good knife. So, alright, our next question deals with weight. What is your average weight for an overnight trek? And, for a summer trek, I go between 20 to 30 pounds. Usually right around 25 pounds is where I usually keep my pack, my weight. For a wintertime trip, trip, it'd probably be between 30 and 40 pounds, something like that. Typically winter gear, the extra clothing that you need, the weight adds up a little bit. Somebody wants to know, where do I live? Western North Carolina, in the Appalachian Mountains along the Blue Ridge. And it's an amazing place, guys. I wish I could be outside right now actually recording this video, but it's just pouring the rain. Right now we have a tropical storm coming through the middle of the state, so it's just pouring the rain. Who knows when we'll be able to get outdoors. Hopefully sometime next week the rain will kind of slack off. There's some reviews coming up, and we'll be talking about that stuff later. Somebody wants to know here, how did I make the intro to my videos? Well, when I first started the channel, I did a search online for free intros, and it seems like I found a site that just allowed you to download them and then edit the text and stuff in Adobe After Effects. I'm really kind of gotten away from doing the intros, and I just do something really, really simple, like you guys usually see with like the black screen, the white text, and kind of go into the filming from there. This is a pretty funny question. How loud is your truck? It's loud. It's a Nissan Titan. It has a Banks exhaust on it. You can definitely hear it coming from about a mile away. It's awesome. It sounds pretty badass too. Let's see. Our next question deals with where I get my gear at. Where do you get all of your gear? And really, there's a number of different places that I get my gear from. If I'm going to be or having to pay full price for something, I'll usually check on Amazon first. Their prices are really good, and usually a whole lot cheaper than, say, like REI or Backcountry, something like that. I have no problem buying used gear. Like GearTrade.com is a fantastic site. You can usually find some good gears, and sometimes you can even talk with people and get the prices a little bit lower. Let's see, eBay is okay. Just be careful with eBay. Use common sense. Look at their feedback and stuff like that. You have to be mindful from where you're buying it, who you're buying it from, so on and so forth. It really helps if you understand the gear that you're about to purchase, so you can tell if it is the real deal or not. I've never had any problems on eBay at all. So let's see, another good site is theclimb.com. Their prices have kind of gone up a little bit, but you really can still have some, find some really good deals there. I've gotten a lot of my gear, a lot of clothing from that site, so absolutely top notch, really. Finally, I would look at REI, Backcountry.com. Check out like their outlet stores. It's kind of where they sell like all this stuff that's been discontinued and whatnot. You can usually find pretty good deals. You could also find coupons online to get a little percentage off of those orders. Let's see, Sierra Trading Post is pretty good. Before you purchase and check out, always make sure to go find coupons. You can always find coupons for an additional amount off of your total. I mean, I've gotten like tents with, that came with like additional poles that have come with a footprint and, all sorts of crap. And still use an additional coupon for like 40% off. So I've gotten like Nemo tents for like around 150 bucks. And if you know anything about Nemo, that's freaking amazing. So definitely look around. Try to find coupons before you go buy. One final thing is Backcountry has a site called Steep and Cheap. And it's kind of like a midnight box sort of site. They have like one item at a time, and it lasts until it's sold out, or like 15 minutes or something like that, an hour. But usually it's all the gear that's maybe left over from a previous year or something like that, overstock. But it's a fantastic site. They have some really good deals on there. Check it out. That's usually what I do when it comes to gear. Coffee break. I was asked about some two-person lightweight tents, and what would I suggest if I was in that market for myself. There's a lot of different options out there. There's a lot of companies who make some really good tents. If I was going to go lightweight, I would not go over 4.5 pounds. If I was going ultralight, I would stay around 3 and less. The first tent that I would recommend looking into is the Nemo Lossy two-person. I think it's Lossy. It's L-O-S-I. Lossy, I don't know. But it's a really good tent. It costs about $280. It's a 2-person tent. It's really simple to set up. It's fully sealed, and it comes in about 4 pounds. I really like that tent. Very, very nice. If you can find them online, maybe on a Craigslist or a gear trade site, the Nemo Nano Elite and the Nemo Nano OZ, both are really, really awesome tents. The Nano Elite comes in about 2 pounds. It does not have a vestibule. You've seen it in my latest camping video where I'm in the Pisgah National Forest. Really slick. The Nano OZ is a like 3.5 season sort of tent that has a big integrated vestibule on it. That comes in about 4 pounds. So look online. You might be able to find someone that has one used. They no longer make those. Nemo does have a tent called the Quantum Elite, which is essentially a lighter version of the Nano OZ with a vestibule. Instead of coming in around 4 pounds, it comes in like around, I don't know, 3 or something. But that tent is really expensive on their website. It's about $550. So what I would suggest is looking for the OZ online. A little bit more weight is worth, you know, saving some couple $100. So that's what I would suggest when it comes to Nemo tents. Another recommendation would come in the form of a Big Agnes tent, which you guys may have seen in one of my other camping videos back in the winter. It's the Big Agnes Copper Spur Ultralight 2-person tent. I have the 1-person tent model, but the 2-person version is just a little bit bigger, a little bit more weight. It comes in around $400. And it's right at 3 pounds. So, guys, that's not bad at all. The 1-person version is like 2 pounds. So, it's only a pound more. Really good quality. All of these tents that I've mentioned so far really come highly reviewed from others on the internet. So, you definitely can't go wrong. MSR has some pretty good tents, such as the Hubba Hubba, which is only 2 pounds. Comes in about $320. One final suggestion would be a Go Light tent, such as the Shangri-La 3-person. $250 for a 4-season tent. It's 4 pounds. I really, really like it. Since it's a 3-person tent, I would say 2-person, really, unless you're really, really comfortable with those individuals. If it's you and your lady friend or whatever, there is a pole that sits in the middle of the tent, so you can definitely make it so everybody fits to one side, but more than likely one person will be one way and another person will be another way. But overall, a really top-notch tent for a really, really good price. Go Light does have some new tents on the market. I haven't heard anything about them, to be honest with you, so I can't really make a recommendation or not. Go Light does have a track record for producing really good gear. They are focused on lightweight, so we'll see in time. Maybe we'll get our hands on one and see how they are. Okay, our final question here involves serious emergency or survival situations. Have I ever been in a serious situation, emergency, survival when I've been out backpacking and whatnot? And the answer is yes. Luckily, it's only been one time, and I guess it was a couple of years ago. It was early spring, and I had picked up this book on waterfalls for Western North Carolina, and I decided that I was going to go out and take some photos. And these ended up taking me into the Pisgah National Forest and on these old forestry roads. And so, like, the first waterfalls that I went to, it was a pretty easy trek. I got some pretty good photos. And the second one took me out on this forestry road out in the middle of nowhere. And it took me to a waterfalls called the North Harper Falls, I believe. And that area was hit really, really hard by an ice storm a couple weeks prior. And there was trees down everywhere. Like a mile down the road from where I parked to go for the North Harper Falls. This gigantic pine tree was busted in half, and it fell right in the middle of the road. So you couldn't go any further. Nobody coming up, can continue. So yeah, the entire area was just decimated by the ice storm. A lot of fallen trees, lots of limbs. So basically, I parked for this this waterfall, and I started hiking through the woods, hiking on this trail, and within a mile or so, I had climbed over so many trees and gone through like all these limbs and whatnot, and I made it out to the falls. Really, really cool. It's more of a Cascades, really. And at the bottom, I took some photos, and I could hear rushing water. So, I kind of followed the sound, and I came upon a really cool, magnificent waterfall. And so I probably stayed there for like an hour or so taking photos. And, once I decided I was done, I kind of packed up my gear. Anyway, so I turn around to leave, and I start kind of hiking through the woods, and I can't find the trail. It's probably about 4 o'clock. Sun's starting to go down a little bit, especially in the valley where I'm at. So, I kind of hike around through the woods a little bit, trying to find the trail again, and I can't. And I couldn't even find where the other falls was, the Cascades that I was talking about. And honestly, I got pretty concerned. My heart started kind of racing, my adrenaline was kind of pumping, and I was a little bit worried. So basically what I did, I just went back to the waterfalls, and I just took a knee. I took a minute just to sit down and just kind of think about, the way I've came, some of the landmarks, kind of the slope of the land that I was, kind of following to get down to this waterfall. And I probably sat there for maybe 15 minutes, and, I just, kind of calmed down so I can think clearly. And, when you get hyped up, when you get nervous, when you get startled and scared, man, it's so easy just to act. You have that adrenaline going through you. Logic kind of takes a back seat. I could have easily have just ran off through the woods looking for the other trail or looking for the falls, and, really got myself lost. So, yeah, I sat there for maybe 15 minutes, and I remember very, very clearly, it's like the waterfall's right in front of me, and I was thinking, okay, I know for a fact that the water is coming down this mountain, and from the direction that I came, I know that the waterfall, the Cascades, also had to come down the same mountain here. So I was like, okay, well, it makes sense that if I climb back up this mountain, following the water, this will eventually merge in with the other creek that was going down to the Cascade part that I was talking about. So, I kind of climbed and crawled up this mountain through the rhododendron, really, really thick. And I kept following this over so many trees, over limbs, and eventually I came out on top of the trail. I was back on the trail again, and I was able to get my way out. And it probably took me 2 hours to work my way out of there. And I had to go slow, I really had to think about, the way the water was coming down, the direction that I was heading when I, first got there. I also knew that there was a dirt road, the forestry road, would be back up, to the north of where I was. So that was my survival emergency sort of situation. And I tell you what, when you get lost, when you realize that you are lost, man, your heart will start beating. Because when you're in the middle of nowhere like I was, getting lost is a big deal. And especially with these forests here. We get almost the same amount of rain as a rainforest. So the canopy, everything's so thick. Like our forests are almost like jungles. So that was it. It was an intense experience, even though it probably doesn't sound like a whole lot. But yeah, as far as emergency situations, that's pretty much it. I've been very lucky. If I can make a suggestion, is anytime that your adrenaline starts pumping, take a knee. If you just sit back, let those those feelings and that energy kind of go through you, let your mind start working again, and logic playing a role, you'll be way better off. Just you gotta sit back, you gotta think about everything, and you'll make the right decisions. So, all right, guys, for our first questions and answers video, that's it. We got some pretty good questions. Thank you guys so much for sending those in. It's a pleasure addressing those for you. We'll be doing another question video coming up soon, so you guys can start thinking about that and what you guys would like to ask. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me in this episode of the Outdoor Gear Review. Everybody be well, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, guys.